Game number 4 is ready to go at the St. Catherine MLK Classic here at the Butler Center, St. Catherine University. Mike Peden and Alex Nagel with you. Alex, this is going to be a fun battle. It's the Goodhue Wildcats, one of the top teams in Class A, against the Becker Bulldogs. Becker on the rise after a slow start. Of course, Alex, you and I know about Becker and their history with the likes of Danny Newst, Ayla Brown, their elder sisters, Julia Bankston, Adeline Kent, but they've been holding their own with Alexis Rose and Adele Changamire. And for Goodhue, Alex, we don't get to see a lot of Class A teams, at least not typically, but Goodhue, they made the state tournament the last couple of years in 2A and gave teams a run, and they did win a pair of titles in Class A few years ago. So it doesn't matter who's representing the Wildcats roster. They've got athletes ready to go, and we'll see an example of that today.
This should be a fun one, Mike. You know, these teams have both enjoyed a lot of success. You know, Becker, of course, we know what they've done. I think Goodhue's may not be as well recognized, but certainly they got to state last year, so this is a program that's been there before, and you know, they're both expecting big things. They've got the history and they've got the tradition and they've got the pieces to do big things. So this should be a fun one here this afternoon.
The starters for Becker: Adele Changamire, Lauren Kroll, Madison Bass, Alexis Rose, and Tess Brown. For Goodhue, it's Natalie Tomford, Avi Agenton, Kendyl Lodermeier, Elisabeth Gadient, the MSU-Mankato commit, and Julia Carlson.
It's good to see Alexis Rose back out on the floor again after that injury she suffered last season.
And you were talking about Goodhue not being recognized, Alex. Remember, they won 2 state titles back-to-back in Class A a few years ago.
Right. Yeah, I think about all the players, you know, you see some familiar names on here like Lodermeier. We've seen those names. The trio of Miller sisters, Michaela, who had a great career at Stavis, who I know well. Maddie, of course, who was a standout here. And then just recently, Tori, who's now playing
Tori Miller.
Juliet Nyack.
I was going to say Tori Miller. Goodhue classed up to 2A for a little while. Now they're back to A. But make no mistake, they're a tough opponent. Becker throws it away. Although this year, Goodhue and Hayfield looks like they might be headed for a showdown. That could determine who gets out of Section 1. And for Becker, well, they've been in this conversation a couple of times. They won state back in 2007 with the Masti twins, won another one in 21. And
those are some great teams.
And then they got upset by Stewartville in the 3A semis last year. Started a little behind schedule as the last game ran long. And this one off to a bit of a choppy start, but I'm sure we'll get things settled in. Kendyl Lodermeier doing just that for the Wildcats of Goodhue. This is Alexis Rose, as Alex noted. Suffered an ACL tear last year midway through the season, had to sit out. Took her a little while to find her form, but she has come up with some big games since then. And it was a really rocky start for Becker. They got ran over by St. Peter in the second half of that game. They made a total of 1 field goal.
Wow.
Since then, they've done a lot better, 7-3, and they've got some big wins over Duluth Marshall and Hancock, one of the top teams in Class A. Here's a 3 for Gadient. And once more, Alex, that 3-point line, that purple line, a lot of athletes have been using that as the reference point. It's the gray line that is the high school line. That's what you're going to be playing for. Rose hands it off. 3 from Madison Bass is short. And that will be a foul on Adele Changamire. That foul was on Adele Changamire. She left her number 0 jersey at home, but you know what? Number 1, I think, fits her well too.
Yeah.
She's definitely not a 0, at least not as a playmaker.
Well, the long pass, errant pass.
That will set up a 3 from the corner. Becker can't put it down. Again, Goodhue, one of the top teams in Class A. Becker trying to make their way back into the 3A conversation. And their section, Alex, this year could be a lot tougher than years past. Rose, the pull-up from 15, in and out. Changamire. It will stay with Becker.
Well, Changamire really came over the top on that one. A lot of athletic ability.
So Becker, the section this year has Totino Grace, Fridley moved to 5, and Monticello having a really good year. Changamire. On the drive and the finish, the 8th grader logged a few minutes last year.
Uh-oh.
And there she is.
Some miscommunication there, as our friend the late Tony Gear would say.
Well, Goodhue, they've had some moments where they look unsettled. The game against Mountain Iron Buell, they were looking out of sorts for most of it. It wasn't until the last 5 minutes or so where they locked in and ran away against Mountain Iron Buell. Changamire with the driving kick. Changamire.
Yep. Moved on that pivot foot.
So Becker, they've won 4 straight after getting rocked by Eden Prairie, and that included a 103-52 win over Zimmerman. That tied a school record for most points in a game. Goodhue had 11-3. Gadient missed the long jumper. Rose for 3. Natalie Tomford slipped up.
Continuing pattern that we've seen in the last game, with both teams kind of struggling with their shooting touch early on.
Goodhue, they haven't lost since their first conference game with Stewartville back on December 14th.
Nice pass by Gadient there.
And a nice finish by Elisabeth Gadient. Gadient, the leading scorer for the Wildcats, 23.1. For Becker, it's Alexis Rose, but that's Tess Brown, who traverses the baseline and gets the bucket. Brown doesn't score a ton, just 3.4 a game, and Gadient will go to the line for Goodhue. Elisabeth Gadient this season, based on the data we have available, averaging just a few points a game, but go ahead.
When you're head coach Josh Weemy and you're trying to get the shoes filled of somebody like Tori Miller, who was so big on both ends of the floor, that's got to be tough. But, the one thing that you have to like about Goodhue is their consistency over the years.
State titles in back-to-back years.
Lane violation, I believe.
Yes, although Gadient missed the second free throw anyway, so I guess if you're going to have one, that's the time to do it. Goodhue winning in 2016 and 17, and then making the show again in Class 2A last year. Rose from 17. Can't get the shot to fall. Rebound collected by number 5, Lola Christensen.
Yep.
That's a walk on Christensen. That's the bane of every ball handler, Alex. You step before you dribble. I think Tony Gear referred to it as the elephant step, or is that something else?
I'm not entirely sure. I don't remember that one.
Oh, he threw a lot of terms at me.
Well, I know.
Maybe he had a few for you. Alexis Rose sees a lane and says, I'll take it in. That's going to be a push.
You know, the thing
Kendyl Lodermeier led with the elbow. Go ahead.
The thing about Rose is, as an underclassman, she was often overshadowed by her elders. But now in the she seems perfectly comfortable to be in the lead position here for this Becker team.
She had a lot of greats to work with.
Oh, absolutely.
Lauren Westeen, who's at Green Bay. Danny News, Stayla Brown. We mentioned Julia Bankson, Courtney News from years past. Double dribble. And what Dan Baird, Dom Squires, and the rest of the crew, what they've done to make Becker a perennial is quite impressive, because we remember that state tournament run they made back in the late 2000s with the Masty twins. And then things were kind of lean for a while. But that 2018-19 season, where they made it all the way to the finals.
But you remember when we went out to Becker to cover that
Becker game, the Becker Coma Park game, that was part of that resurgence. Lodermeier with 4 points for Goodhue.
Unbelievable performance that night. That team had so much energy.
That was a President's Day match, and Alex, looking at the calendar this year, President's Day is turning into a game day of sorts.
Yep.
There are a lot of games on the schedule. And with this being a federal holiday, it's easy for me to go check out some of these games. This is Becker ball. They throw it away. 7-6, Goodhue over Becker.
Getting a little low from the top. Still struggling with her shooting touch.
This is Changamire. Works the lane, but is rejected. Three ball, long. Rose tried to maneuver through traffic. She was cut off by Mackenzie Lodermeier. And Goodhue finishes on the other end. Kendyl
now here
scores.
For Goodhue, and head coach Dan Baird of Becker wants to talk about it.
9-6, Goodhue over Becker. Again, Becker winning 4 straight, including wins over Duluth, Marshall, and Hancock. They still have both games with Monticello on the schedule. That will have significant sway on Section 5 seeding. And then they come back here in February to play Benilde St. Margaret's, but that first month was rough. They got rocked by Minnehaha Academy and Eden Prairie. Maybe they don't have the personnel they had in years past. And Dom Squires, I talked to him briefly yesterday, he said the rotations were there, the execution was still being worked on. That seems to have changed over these last 4 games.
Yeah, it's, there's some things, at the beginning of the season where, it's kind of a work in progress, but once you start finding yourself, that confidence gets planted, and let's see if that'll carry over for Becker here now.
And for Goodhue, again, they had a slow start of sorts. They were 3-3, losing to Hancock, Providence, and Stewartville. Since then, all W's, and that includes wins over Mountain Iron Buell, who was number 1 at the time, and I believe still is, and Crosby Ironton. And since then, well, 1A, 2A, 3A, I think they all are up for grabs right now.
Yeah.
That could change when we get to February, but 1A, Goodhue beat Mountain Iron Buell, and then Mountain Iron Buell goes and beats Albany, who had beaten Providence Academy. It was a massacre, as Kevin Anderson put it, but I think it also speaks to the parity we are seeing this year across every class in girls basketball. This is Alexis Rose. Rose had a 30-point game earlier this year. Lauren Kroll out to Brown, who works the baseline and lays it in.
Nice response there by the Bulldogs when things weren't looking so hot just a few minutes ago. They get a nice response, good offensive possession there, very efficient. They got it down to 1.
There's Gadient, the MSU-Mankato commit, but she's called for traveling. So she won't stray too far from home base. Goodhue in the Hiawatha Valley, and they get some great conference competition.
Yeah.
Stewartville and Byron having fantastic seasons.
Yep.
Stewartville, they struggled a bit with Benilde St. Margaret's, but they nearly beat Providence Academy. Byron kind of came out of nowhere. That's going to make Section 1-3A even more challenging. Becker drains the runner. That's Madison Bass. And even though Becker doesn't have the big names of years past, Alex, a lot of these players that you're seeing got playing time last year for the Bulldogs.
Yeah, well, I think they had to, especially when you consider that Rose was out for a good chunk of it.
And Maren Westeen was...
Speaking of Rose, what a big block by her.
3-ball short. Gadient on the attempt. And remember, Alex, Maren Westeen, she missed a few games last year as well. Here's Anderson Changamire. You won't get the bounce, but she will go to the line. Anderson Changamire.
You know, the one thing that head coach Dan Baird of Becker knows how to do really well is bring his young players along. Right now, for example, we see the 8th grader, Josie Reckelberg, out there for the Bulldogs.
Changamire, the 7th grader, Anderson that is, and Adele, her big sister, the 8th grader. Reckelberg, like you said, getting some time. And this is how you keep that pipeline going.
Yep.
Como Park, yeah, they went through that a couple years ago.
You speak about that pipeline, I mean, that's just, you know, we've watched this Becker team over the last few years because of that pipeline grow into the kind of program that they are.
They've made the state tournament for the last 5 straight years. I think I was a little redundant, but you know what I'm saying. 5 straight. Last 5 years, 5 straight years. You know what I'm talking about, hopefully. Goodhue had penetration down low, but Julia Carlson could not finish the play.
Those are the kind of shots you got to get to go down if you're Goodhue.
And even though Becker got rocked in some games this year, they kept some of the teams they had on the schedule. Minnehaha, Eden Prairie, Benilde St. Margaret's, and I think that will help them later on.
Oh,
Gadient with the steal and finish.
And finish on the other end by Gadient. You talk about one of those players that had that unique takeover ability. I think you'd have to put Gadient in that category.
And I feel like Gadient maybe doesn't get as much press as some others. She doesn't play, or I don't think played for like the top AAU clubs, if memory serves, but she is a difference maker, and she's going to do that at MSU-Mankato next year. 10 to shoot for Becker. Lola Christensen invades the space of Kroll. Gadient. Spin move, pulls up, short this time. Carlson got tripped up by Avery Johnson. That will be a foul. And this is the perk, the beauty of having these invitationals, Alex, whether it's breakdown, Twin Cities tip-off, Pat Patterson tip-off at Hamlin. It creates these fun what-ifs.
Yeah.
What would a game like this look like? You and I, of course, got to see Providence Dowling Catholic. Players are still talking about that game. And they'll be talking about that play as Lodermeier scores. Becker beats Goodhue on the other end. Becker bringing the defense. It almost paid off. Alexis Rose.
Tell you what, Alexis Rose almost did it all on that sequence.
Not quite, but points for trying. Alexis Rose will be playing Division II basketball next year at Sioux Falls.
Yep.
So a bit of a NSIC rivalry, so to speak. Gadient to Carlson. Kendyl Lodermeier, one of the big names for Goodhue, a team that has been consistent for the last several years. Swing it around, there's Gadient. Pull up three is there.
I tell you what, she's starting to get cooking here.
Goodhue takes the lead, 16-14. 3-ball, corner pocket. Madison Bass.
Safe to say, I think the cobwebs have been removed from both baskets here, Mike.
Lodermeier. Had a Genton for a moment. Used up the dribble, goes back out. Becker manning up, it looks like. Gadient with the bounce pass to a Genton. 10 to shoot. High low to Carlson. Gets the post up and the finish.
Good job by Carlson with a finish down low. Used her body perfectly and drew the contact.
Julia Carlson averaging 5.4 points per game. No three-point play. But Goodhue does lead 18-17. Rose for three. Off the heel. Rebound, Christensen, and she's fouled.
I think that's going to go on Kroll, if I'm not mistaken. Let's just, yeah, that is her first.
Just her first. But compared to the last game, Alex, I feel the flow is a lot better here. We're seeing a lot of back and forth action. Carlson again missed the layup. Well, she'll go back to the line.
Good job by Carlson, number one, controlling that ball when she didn't have the best handle on it. Even though she couldn't get the first shot to go, she got the offensive rebound, and now she gets a chance to make amends here at the charity stripe.
Julia Carlson. Averaging about 5.5 a game. Like we said, Goodhue and Hayfield look like they will be headed for a tilt in the Section 1A bracket. And Hayfield, I found this out, they don't take Martin Luther King Day off. Most schools do, but there are a few that don't take school off today.
Oh boy, that was very dangerous there.
Rose
almost
can't
got
get
it
the
to go.
bounce. Almost made lemonade out of lemons there.
That's one of the best ones I've ever heard.
You've never heard that before? I've never said that around you.
I probably have, but the fact that you used it in that situation.
Speaking of lemonade, Elisabeth Gadient is probably going to have a sip of that after that three.
I tell you what, she's really heating up here, which is bad news for Goodhue. You've got to find a way to get a body on her. And there's Gadient again with a steal now.
Poked the ball away from Changamire. Got her hand in the cookie jar, but cannot hit the fadeaway. Changamire draws the foul. Becker out of fouls to give. Goodhue with two more. They lead by 6, 23-17.
Gadient gets a well-deserved breather.
But a good tune-up for both schools. And again, Becker keeping their strength of schedule intact, even if they don't quite have the personnel. At least, well, it's not unlike Hopkins. They had a lot of new faces this year, and they're doing quite well. Sometimes it takes a little while for that to gel as Rose tries the college three and sinks it. Alexis with the first three-pointer.
That was a big three there for Becker. They needed that one.
And I think for Becker, I don't want to say the fortunes changed after Duluth Marshall, but you beat them. You beat a really good Hancock team. They've been holding their own so far in the Mississippi 8. We'll see what Monticello brings, but I think we're seeing two teams trade blows here. This is more like a chess match. The last game, it seemed like whoever could find opportunities would be the team to do it. Here, I think we're seeing a better use of strategy and cunning and cleverness. All traits that I lack, which is why I'm up here. 4:32 left in the first half, 23-20 the score. Goodhue leads Becker. Both teams trying to preserve win streaks. Goodhue, they haven't lost since December 14th. That's 8 straight games. Becker, they've won 4 straight, and Madison Bass with the bucket down low. Pass tipped. Traveling call.
Yeah. You know, the one common denominator that I'm kind of picking up on with this Goodhue team is that they've got a lot of length. I mean, obviously we see Gadient, but she's not the only one with length.
Gadient and Lodermeier have been the two big names for the Wildcats. But it's Becker trying to retake the lead. That pass nearly intercepted. Instead, Changamire gets the step back 3. It won't fall, though. Gadient, the handoff. Tomford for 3. Yes! Tomford's first points of this match.
Sophomore coming up big.
Changamire, driving kick. Becker with the answer. Not quite. Gadient. Hands it off. Mackenzie Lodermeier's 3 is true.
And all of a sudden, Goodhue really lighting it up from behind the arc. And with it, a 7-point lead.
29-22. Kroll out to Anderson Changamire. 7th grader can't hit the 3, but Adele is there for the recovery. Timeout Becker. 2:51 to go, 29-24. The Changamires getting a lot more minutes this year. The Changamires, by the way, Alex, they have a cat named Jimmy Butler and a dog named Maya Moore.
Oh, now that is interesting.
That is really, well, you know what that tells me? It tells me they probably watch a lot of basketball at home.
More than likely.
29-24 the score.
Well, meanwhile, as I pointed out here just a bit ago, the Wildcats kind of having the tempo of this game go their way here, Mike. You know, they've cashed in from behind the arc here as of late, and whether they still have that 5-point edge.
That being said, both teams have held their own. I don't feel like either team has really run into any problems, any jagged edges, so to speak, or jagged little pills. No, that's an Alanis Morissette song. That was a stretch.
I like the lemonade deal better.
I'm surprised you've never heard that before.
I have, but I've never heard it applied in a basketball context before.
Well, Alexis Rose gets the steal. She wouldn't mind some lemonade or maybe some sweet tea. Changamire thought about it, didn't have the shooting space. This is Kroll. Whoops. Tess Brown will check back in. And for Goodhue, they've been tested before in conference, out of conference. Becker, they got wins over Hancock and Duluth Marshall, so I think both teams are riding high. That's the second time we've had a traveling call.
Right. I thought maybe initially she might have ran out of real estate, might have stepped on the out-of-bounds line, but not the case.
And it's tough to tell. I'm not suggesting.
Especially from our angle, too.
Right. Because from our vantage point, it doesn't look that way, but officials are not letting that slide. Whoa.
Yeah, there's
another example.
That one a bit more obvious.
That one, even you and I could get. No, I always respect the officials for what they do. And in our last game, that foul that Ada Scafty drew that led to 3 free throws, our camera guy, Sam, he had the clear vantage point and said that was a good call. She got ran into after releasing the shot, and you have to let the shooter land.
Right.
So the officials, they know what they're doing, and I'm glad they're a part of this. Gadient from the college line. Bullseye.
Wow. I tell you what, good things happen for Goodhue when she starts strutting her stuff.
Goodhue with their largest lead of the game. Rose got harassed on the drive, and it will be Becker ball on the held arrow, possession arrow.
You know, we talked here a little while ago about, Rose, moving, from strictly a role player position under her elders, the names that we mentioned before, and now ascending into that, premier spot on this team.
Rose for 3, too strong. Anderson Changamire with the rebound. Did not touch rim, so the shot clock doesn't reset. They've got 6 to shoot. Adele almost had it.
Got that.
Kendyl Lodermeier to Gadient. Her drive is no good. Seven-second difference, 8-second difference. Shot clock to game clock. But Adele's not going to wait. She will release the 3, and it's short off the front iron. Tomford with the rebound. Goodhue could hold for one more. Except if you cough it up like that.
Yeah, that's one mistake that I'm sure Josh Weemy would rather do without.
It happens to the best of us, though.
Oh, yeah. So now here, chance for the Bulldogs to narrow this gap here.
Adele, 8 seconds to Anderson. I'm using first names because they're sisters.
Oh.
Tess Brown short on that slash, and the first half comes to an end with Goodhue leading 32-24. Goodhue with a few more plays in their pocket, Alex, and I think the three-point shooting a bit more in their favor, but both teams don't have any apprehension about them. I think they both have locked into their identities.
And we've got to give credit where credit is due, particularly with Elisabeth Gadient of Goodhue. She really came up big in this first half for the Wildcats, and if she continues on this pace, they're going to be in really good shape, I think.
We'll take a break and bring you the second half. This is the St. Catherine MLK Basketball Classic at the Butler Center in St. Paul. Twin Cities Sports Broadcasting and a whole lot more. That's what you get from TSB Television. We provide long-lasting digital coverage of your favorite athletes from the preps to the pros. Dazzling moves. Holloman, good if it goes. Yes! Game winners. James, she's in trouble. Finds James. Toss shot. It goes in. And everything in between. Before we let you go, do you want to say hi to anybody?
Oh, I don't know. That put me on the spot there.
If you want to connect with our audience, visit us at patreon.com/TSB Television or sponsor our coverage through PayPal and Cash App. Thank you for watching. Yeah, it'll probably go to running time is my guess.
When they made that point that was making it for us to go into overtime, he was cheering. I'm like, you can't cheer for these two.
Well, he's not announcing, so he can cheer as much as he wants. Mike Peden and Alex Nagel back with you. Halftime is over. Second half about to start. Goodhue and Becker. Two teams on win streaks, hoping to extend it. The first half numbers, Goodhue led by Elisabeth Gadient with 11 points. Kendyl Lodermeier with 8. Madison Bass leading the Becker Bulldogs with 9. Alex Goodhue ended that first half on a bit of a run. We'll see if they can sustain that. It felt like their three-point shooting made a difference late in that first half.
I think if you're Becker, you've got to find a way to get a body on Gadient out there.
Or Kendyl Lodermeier.
Well, yeah, but more importantly, you can't let a player like Gadient with her skill set have carte blanche behind the three-point line. Not sure what's going on there, Mike.
We have, I think, a bench technical.
Yeah, but on who?
It's on Goodhue because Becker's going to the line.
I don't know what happened.
Was there a mix?
He was explaining something to the team, but I didn't catch it.
And I do not have Vulcan ears or Ferengi ears, so I couldn't pick up on it myself. But it does give Alexis Rose a couple of freebies.
And more, just as important perhaps, possession here. Chance to narrow this gap up even more.
Well, it was Becker ball, so that wasn't the issue. The only time, Alex, that I've seen technicals like that are usually when a player has the wrong number in the scorebook.
Yeah.
Sam might know what's going on. 5 to shoot. Rose for 3, short. Oh, it's 34-26 after all that. Goodhue launches the 3. Bullseye. Avia Gettin with her first triple.
That's going to be another problem for this Becker team.
Goodhue's got some perimeter shooters in their ranks. But Becker was able to make a run in the first half. Alexis Rose draws the foul. She'll shoot 2.
And just to finish that thought I had on Rose back during the first half, we talked about her ascension now into one of really the true leader of this team. When you go from the mindset of being a role player, as she was here for the last few years, now to being the leader from a purely mental standpoint, that's not always an easy thing to do, Mike, because you can get comfortable, as a role player where you don't have to assume so much responsibility. But she seems to have embraced this leadership role pretty well, I think.
She hits both free throws, so she's 4 for 4 in the second half. Goodhue launching another 3. It's short. Carlson rebound. Could not get positioning. Foul before the shot. Alexis Rose, by the way, was a competitive gymnast until 9th grade. And also takes up cross-country basketball and track. To your point, Alex, I think for players that maybe Alexis missed the second half of last season.
Right.
So I don't think she could get.
May have made that situation even the more difficult for her. But again, she's handled it quite well, I think.
Maybe a little more difficult, but at the same time, you want to prove yourself as Adele Changamire throws it away. You want to remind folks, hey, I can play too.
Yeah.
She was part of that potent starting 5 that Becker had, and who knows if she was healthy, if they would have beaten Stewartville with butterfly effect, you never know.
Well, costly turnover there on the other end by the Bulldogs. Dan Beard not happy with that.
Well, Adele Changamire gets back and gets the block on Gadient. I think folks knew Becker would be in for a transitional year, although one of the breakdown contributors picked them to win the Class 3A title. It was a prediction that drew some surprised looks as Goodhue's 3 from Kendyl Lodermeier is long. Adele Changamire with the rebound. Changamire, the runner, too strong.
That's what the kind of play where you got to use the glass on a shot like that.
Rose intervenes and strips it from Gadient. Kroll, short. We said this in the Holy Angels game, Alex. Those are the plays, the layups you really want to have. High, low, Carlson lays it in.
And just like that now, a double-digit lead for Goodhue. Those last two missed opportunities by Becker proving to be quite costly.
Rose through the hole and in.
Maybe a little bit of that gymnast ability that she had paid off on that move. Boy, I tell you what, she really had to slither through some traffic to get into that one.
Slither, slink, and we got a kiss from a Rose there. Alexis Rose. All right, I'll seal my mouth shut. Kendyl Lodermeier missing the jumper. Becker couldn't get the outlet pass through cleanly. Gadient has it now. 9-point lead for the Wildcats of Goodhue. Carlson, nowhere to go inside, so she'll go back out, and Goodhue will take a three from the outside. Natalie Tomford makes it a 12-point lead for the Wildcats of Goodhue.
Yeah, you think, kind of have to think now, Mike, if you're head coach Dan Baird and the Becker Bulldogs, you're kind of in the danger zone here. Now down 12, certainly a ton of time left, but you've got to find a way to get some stops. You can't leave their three-point shooters out there all alone.
42-30, and Goodhue's three-point shooting, I think, making a big difference in this one.
Absolutely.
Gadient's got 3 triples. Tomford has a pair of them now, and that can go a long way when they are falling. And remember, Alex, the Wildcats, they were a potent team. They made it to the 2A tournament last year.
Right.
When they moved down, it put them in contention, but it also set up, again, a likely match with Hayfield.
It changed up the dynamics for them,
Well,
obviously.
as Tim Colmanian, who's with the Breakdown organization, he helps with the guidebooks, as he says, every 2 years it's chaos.
Yeah.
With all the
And
section
this
realignments.
Last time around was no different.
I think this year more so than past years with all the schools that change classes. Josie Reckelberg had that shot denied. Gadient, catch and shoot 3, bullseye.
Wow.
Tomford with the assist. And this is a chance for Goodhue to really take command. Rose drew the foul. Was it in the act of shooting? It appears so. So Rose, think about it, she played a total of 4 sports in her high school years.
That's
up through high school. Gymnastics, cross country, track, and basketball.
Well, yeah, and we've talked often about the multi-sport factor, with these young athletes, Mike, and I think it's a good thing.
Rose makes both free throws.
Becker
Coming in, she was shooting
apply
50.
some full court pressure and almost got one there.
Well, here's the coming into this game, Alex. Alexis Rose, they had her as a 58% free throw shooter. I think that might not be entirely accurate. She's been money in the second half. I think someone's got to check those numbers. Gadient with the spin move, pulls up from 14, short. Rebound, and the putback. Lola Christensen.
Christensen came out of nowhere and snagged that offensive rebound.
Well, those are the best second chance plays when you come out of nowhere like that. Here's a 3 for Reckelberg. Her first points. Becker trying to keep pace with Goodhue. And they force the turnover. Becker starting to bring more pressure up top.
That's something that Becker has got to do if they want to get back into single-digit range here, create those kinds of opportunities. Oh, almost got one there.
Reckelberg will go to the line. She is 4 of 5 this season, averaging 4.3 a game. And you have to think all these minutes will help Becker, even if they don't make a deep run this year.
Well, the 8th grader certainly having a solid afternoon here.
And another one of the role players who I haven't seen get some time lately, Hannah Durkis.
Lane violation. Maybe she'll get one more.
So we get a do-over. I love to say that every time you get a lane violation. It's a do-over. Well, it's still a split anyway. Christensen got a step and lays it in.
I tell you what, 2 big plays here by Christensen help expand this Goodhue lead. And Becker comes up empty again.
Gadient collects the rebound, trying to charge her way in. Instead had the ball taken away, and another foul on Goodhue.
That's second foul on Gadient this afternoon.
49-36, Goodhue over Becker. First time these two have taken part in the St. Catherine MLK Classic. Rose through the hole, count it.
What a great play by Rose.
I know I referenced the Seal song earlier, but the way she's playing, Goodhue might think of her as every rose has its thorns, because she has been a thorny player to defend. I'm sure she's heard this more than once. All of this more than once.
That's one of my favorite songs, too.
Goodhue coughs it up on the traveling violation. Getting all my rose-colored references out of the way through these rose-colored glasses. 11:55 to go.
We've had some good ones over the years with some different players.
And Becker with a chance to
build
a run here.
This is a big opportunity now. Get it back into single-digit range.
Rose
thought about it.
Didn't have the shooting space.
Now you're down under 10 seconds. And
5 to shoot.
5.
Reckelberg got to get rid of it. She didn't recognize the clock.
Again, one of those situations where you have to be aware of what's left on the shot clock. Some indecisiveness there by the Bulldogs.
Carlson drew the foul and almost took down number 12, Wither. That's Alexa Voller. And free throws coming for Julia Carlson. Still a lot of time left though in this one, 11:28. And you're looking at this Goodhue lineup again. They're powered mostly by the pair of scorers in Gadient and Kendyl Lodermeier, but they've got balance, they've got that pedigree. Becker looking.
Yep, and there we see
they
again.
looked themselves into a traveling call. I guess it's hard for me to comprehend, not because I'm thinking, why do you do that? But I suppose it's a little different out there when you're the one running the set trying to position yourself.
Yeah.
Because how many times have I seen players take the step before dribbling? That's a pretty lengthy list. Tomford got the roll.
It's a friendly roll.
And we're seeing this game swing back in Goodhue's direction. Rose threw it away. That's Avia Getton who came up with the steal. Three from the key. Tomford drifts it slightly right. Offensive rebound now. Gadient from long range, dropping the bomb.
So everything seems to be going Goodhue's way here. 14, or rather 16-point lead.
Gadient with the pick, and she'll shoot two.
And a chance to build on that now.
Gadient with 17 points. Had 32 in a game earlier this season. Some of the games are missing. That 32 came against Crosby Ironton. Once again going to MSU-Mankato.
You know, it was just a few short minutes ago we were talking about Becker with a chance to get back to within single-digit range. Now here we are just a few minutes later, staring at an 18-point hole.
Gadient, a volleyball basketball player for Goodhue, 19 points. Rose hoping to get Becker back, and a three-pointer could
Well,
be
they
the first
need more
step.
of those.
Rose with 19 points. 9.5 minutes to go. So Becker, they're going to need to run soon. Gadient determined not to let that happen.
No.
Drops the bunny in.
Again, that's that takeover ability, you know, that we talk about.
Adele Changamire's three offline, but cleaning up the mess is Tess Brown. Her first field goal of the second half. 59-44.
Well, this is where if you're Becker, you can't be content. You can't be content at just simply trading scores with your opponent. You've got to find a way to get some stops and get the momentum, the tempo of this game going your way.
Rose to Adele Changamire. Bass had that deflected. Rose will let it go out of play, knowing that Goodhue was the last to make contact with the ball, and the shot clock resets to 20. Deep three, short. Gadient, rebound. Kicks it out to Tomford for three. Bullseye.
Ooh.
Becker trying to thread it for the outlet. Carlson knocked it away. Deep three for Alexis Rose off the back iron. Adele Changamire.
Little indecisiveness there on that one.
I don't know if I call it indecisiveness. I think she saw the wall at the last minute and tried to get rid of it rather than take a contested jumper. Open three. That comes up short. Lola Christensen to Carlson, who cuts her way through and puts it in.
You know who's had a solid afternoon here for Goodhue? Lola Christensen, the freshman.
Well, Goodhue, this is their strength. Again, their big scorers are Lodermeier and Gadient, but they have a lot of great role players. That's why they made the 2A field last year. They did get bronze, if I recall, and that was why they were one of the front runners in Class A. And looking at that Class A leaderboard, Goodhue, the #1 team in Class A right now, but between Goodhue, Mountain Iron Bill, and Hancock, Sleepy Eye also a contender. There are a lot of teams, I think four at least, that have a good chance of winning the Class A state title. On the 3A side, Becker not in, well, they got in the top 20, but that is still up for grabs. De La Salle's #1. They have the win over Benilde St. Margaret's, but that came without Olivia Olson and Kendyl McGee. And Becker, I don't know if they have enough time to get back in this game, but they'll have a couple more tests. Again, that Monticello series is going to be one to watch for section purposes.
Yep.
It's one of the 2 conference doubleheaders that they host, along with Big Lake, going to the geographic rivalry. Not unlike Osseo Maple Grove. If I recall, those 2 have a doubleheader every year in basketball, being in the same district. So Goodhue leads 64-44. Becker has their work cut out for them if they want to claw their way back. And that's not going to help. Throwing it away, Lola Christensen turning it over. Gadient for 3. Short. Rose has got it with numbers. She'll step into the 3. Also offline.
It's just been a struggle for Becker in this second half to sustain, some real momentum. Well, let's see if that 3 by Changamire does something for them.
I like how you say that, and then the opposite thing happens.
Yeah, I know. It's
You've been the reverse stinks twice.
The reverse X.
Lola Christensen with a quick score on the other end. Goodhue leading 66-44. No, 66-47. I thought I was going crazy. Changamire will try again. Can't make it back-to-back triples. Gadient. To Kendyl Lodermeier. Tomford.
Oh.
With the cut inside. She's got 13.
Kind of seems to be the forgotten element on this team.
Well, she's making us take notice. Kendyl Lodermeier with the pick. She's got a step ahead of the competition. Rose drew the foul, but it looks like Goodhue has got this one locked up, leading 70-47. Rose will shoot 2. And you look at the common opponents as well, which I think speaks to the random chance, the variability. Because Hancock beat Goodhue back at the Tip-Off Classic earlier this season. Becker beat Hancock, and it looks like, unless something drastic happens, Goodhue's going to get a big win over Becker. It was only last year that well, Rose got the steal. I was going to go into a point, but I'll wait for a moment here. See what Becker does in this possession. Again, they trail by a bunch. I don't know if there's enough time. Gadient times the pass. Sneaks ahead of Changamire.
That was just beautiful to watch.
But seeing Goodhue a few times, their game against Hancock, they looked a little tense at the time. Gadient didn't have the best of games. Mountain Iron Buell, they played well to start and then just looked completely uncomfortable for a time. It took them a couple of minutes after Zubic fouled out for them to really find their footing. Once they did, they ran away with it, and here they're going to get a big win over Becker. Rose is up to 22 points, by the way, with that last bucket. Goodhue tried the entry feed. It was turned away. And it looks like the second stringers are going to be checking in to finish this one out. Well, I can say this much. I'm going to have a little more background knowledge on Class A if I get those games this year for state with NSPN. But Alex, we don't get to see the Class A teams often, at least those from outside the area. Not a lot of metro teams that are real threats to contend.
Yeah.
What are your impressions with Goodhue? And how far do you think they could go? Could they win state, or is it a toss-up with
I mean, I look at this Goodhue team.
Gadient for the call for the charge.
We see what Gadient can do, obviously. But it's more than that. I mean, I look at the team and I see a lot of length. And it's not just Gadient who can score. Josh Weemy has a lot of other players who can score. We've seen the Christensen, Lola Christensen's have a really solid afternoon for this Wildcat team. I mean, you can get, good supporting casts like that. You can always make yourself a contender.
Adele Changamire sinks the right wing tray.
And look at Tomford too. She's had a solid afternoon.
Tomford with 13. Pat Barrett and I had this conversation at the start of the year when we were reflecting on last year and what it takes to win state compared to what we would see 10 years ago. I think the difference now compared to then, and this may be nostalgia. Rose, that was a nifty, shifty move, and not much there. Especially in Class A, 2A, it felt like in years past you could get away with one player.
Yeah.
Anderson Changamire with the block.
That may not be so true now.
Well, even looking at last year's champions, Mountain Iron Buell, Jordan Zubich, the leading role, but you had Sage Gagnon.
Right.
And Hallie Savala.
Right.
In 2A, Providence, they're a deep team. And they've retained that depth this year. I remember in past years when Minnehaha won their first title in 2A. They had a couple of pieces. Caitlin Adams was one of them. In Class A, when Mountain Iron Buell won back-to-back, Onyo Simonim was the driving force behind those two titles. Minneota came in a little later. But it felt like you could ride the coattails of one superstar athlete, and that would be enough.
Well, and here's the thing. I mean,
now you need at least 2 or 3.
Right. I mean, you look at Goodhue, for example. They have that type of player in Elisabeth Gadient. Now, you're talking about a one-trick pony team. I mean, that might be able to pull that off. You can probably pretty well bet that that player, whoever that is, has got to have that unique takeover ability that just gives the opponents fits.
Lola Christensen will add 3 more to her total.
Here we see Goodhue now getting contributions from a lot of different players. That's what makes them so good.
And I feel like if they get another chance with Hancock, that would change the game. We'll have a timeout here, 102. I think mostly you get the starters out of there.
Right.
This will be a good win for Goodhue. Having seen them and Mountain Iron Buell, I think the Goodhue win over Mountain Iron Buell highlighted something that MIB lacks, and that's support depth outside of Zubich and Savala. I feel like Goodhue has a little more of that. Mountain Iron Buell, I think, was a favorite because they won the title, and Jordan Zubich recently joined the 3,000-point club. And let's not forget about Hancock. I saw them at the Tip-Off Classic. They pulled off the big win over Goodhue. Class A has that element of surprise. I feel like Goodhue, from what I've seen, may have the best chance to win Class A. I wouldn't call them a heavy favorite or mail them the trophy, but as you were saying, they have enough depth around Gadient to function if Gadient is having a bad game.
Right.
And for Becker, they gave Goodhue a run. And remember, they got that big win over Hancock, even though the 4-game win streak comes to an end. I think for them, it's just getting more experience for some of those young guns, like Adele Changamire, Josie Reckelberg, and sometimes that takes time.
Well,
That will not count.
I, for instance, I look at my alma mater with Caitlin Clark. I mean, she's a once in a lifetime player, but
Once in a lifetime? How about once in a millennium?
yeah. But here's the difference: Lisa Bluter has a lot of really good pieces around her.
Hannah Stolke comes to mind there.
Oh, yeah.
She's having a terrific sophomore year. So time will run out, and Goodhue will pick up win number 9 in a row. They have not lost since December 14th. They should have a couple of great conference games ahead of them with Stewartville and Byron. Christensen gets one more steal. Can she add 2 more to the total? She cannot, but Goodhue does pick up their 12th win of the year, 75-53 over Becker. Gadient with 23, Tomford with 13, Kendyl Lodermeier with 12.
I tell you what, that's some pretty balanced score. I mean, of course, we knew what Gadient is capable of doing, and she certainly displayed that here this afternoon. But I mean, when you get those kinds of contributions that head coach Josh Weemy got here today, that's you see what this Goodhue team is capable of.
With the last game running long, we're still a bit behind schedule, so we'll have another quick out before our last game, Providence Academy in Champlain Park, as we continue our coverage of the St. Catherine MLK Classic at the Butler Center. Goodhue beats Becker 75-53. We had a little more time than I thought, so we'll throw in a quick little chat with Elisabeth Gadient, although her contributions are anything but little. 23 points today. Another win for the Goodhue Wildcats, 9 in a row. And Elisabeth, you've had quite the career in the purple and white of Goodhue. It was tight early on. Goodhue pulled away in the second half. What was the difference?
I think our movement on defense. We switched to a zone defense, and that's kind of what changed the game.
And what would you make of this season? You went back down to Class A. You had a bit of a rocky start with losses to Hancock, Providence, Stewartville, although that's a pretty good Stewartville team. But now you've won 9 in a row, including wins over Mountain Iron Buell, Crosby Ironton. You get a win over a Becker team that had been on a hot streak. What do you think has changed in Goodhue's favor?
I think our ball movement. We've been sharing the ball really well and just finding our open teammates. And earlier in the season, we kind of had trouble transition defense, and now we're kind of getting back and finding girls better than we were.
That was evident today. I've noticed this with Goodhue and with more of these Class A teams, you get more contributions from more players. When I started following the sport, I think you could get away with having 1 or 2 go-tos. You and your team are proof that you can get it done and you don't always have to rely on the one player. How vital is it to have folks like Tomford and Kendyl Lodermeier, and even Carlson and Christensen had a couple of plays today?
Yeah, it's so great when everyone can contribute. If you have 5 threats on the floor, I think that makes a really big difference.
And what would you make of your time in a Goodhue uniform and what that has meant to you and the community? Because you hear this a lot, how smaller towns rally around their teams, and based on that expression, it sounds like that's what happens at Goodhue. Just what do you make of your time and how the community has supported you over these years?
I love our small town. I mean, it definitely is a big difference changer in big games. Like the 3rd place game last year against Minnehaha. If you looked at our crowd, I mean, the whole bleachers are filled. Their crowd, not so much. I mean, because they're a bigger school than us, but yeah, I love when the community comes out and supports us.
So what are you looking forward to in the second half of the season? I know you're going to MSU-Mankato, and what are you excited about as you continue this last ride in a Goodhue jersey?
I'm really excited. I'm really looking forward to sections, playing a really good Hayfield team coming up later on. Yeah, I'm just excited to have more games with this group of people.
Now, I wanted to get some clarification on something you wrote. You said you like to stay busy as a fun fact in the breakdown guidebook. So what do you mean by staying busy exactly? What are there activities, interests, hobbies? What kind of things do you like to stay busy with?
Yeah, staying busy. I don't really like to sit around the house, if that means like going out with friends or just doing something. In the summer, I teach kids how to swim. So I'm a lifeguard in the summer, and yeah.
I'm sorry you didn't put that down in the breakdown book. I think that's a lot more informative. I didn't know you were a lifeguard. Well, no wonder why you're such a great patroller of everybody. You got to watch everybody. You got to do the same thing when you're a lifeguard. Right. So you can't ignore your teammates out there, because it'd be like ignoring all those people in the pool. How long have you been doing that? And I guess what have you learned? I don't know if there's a ton of crossover between the two, but as we were saying, you got to watch for a lot of people when you're watching pools and ponds on the floor. You got to be mindful of where everyone is.
Yeah, I've been lifeguarding since I was 15 years old, but I don't know. Yeah, I don't know if there's a big comparison, but yeah, definitely is. I can spot my teammates and little kids easier.
And you don't have to sit around.
Yeah, right.
Well, that's a fun little fact, and I'm sure all the kids, you know what, they'll have a story to share. One day, I could see it now. Somebody's going to watch this and be like, wait, she was the lifeguard. I know her.
Oh my gosh.
You're going to get some autograph requests now.
That's funny.
Before we go, Elizabeth, you want to say hi to anybody?
Hi, Grandma and Grandpa.
Well, hi, Grandma, Grandpa, and if anyone out in the pool or at the lake recognizes Elizabeth, we say hi to you as well. I'm sure you are a terrific lifeguard, and you are a terrific basketball player. Thanks for stopping by. Have a safe trip back, and good luck the rest of the way.
Thank you so much.
Elisabeth Gadient of Goodhue will have more from the St. Catherine MLK Classic shortly.